let's go back a little bit. Tell me about a little bit about your entrepreneurial history. And I know you and I have had this discussion before, but where did entrepreneurism first come into your mind and into your life?
Yeah, it was, I'd say I mean, very, very beginning. So my dad's an entrepreneur. His dad was an entrepreneur. His dad was a Polish immigrant that opened a junkyard after doing a ton of other things, opened a junkyard and scrap metal yard in East LA. My dad, from 8 years old, was working there. Then he became a partner in it. He helped build it out and then ended up running all the waste for a lot of different cities and getting into real estate, and just, I was always an entrepreneur. And on top of that, I'm the oldest. My dad became successful over time as I grew up.
Yeah.
And judging by his actions, I think he was hyper concerned that I would be a spoiled rich kid, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
And so he was always, even as a young kid, was adamant that I had to work for it. So, you know, he used to like teach me to like really care about the value of money in a weird way. Like I remember at like 4, 5, 6 years old, I would save change so that I could trade up for a bigger dollar bill. Like I wanted a 5, then a 10, then a 20, then a 50 for no reason. I wasn't buying anything. I just wanted to get to that next level.
Yeah.
And then so I started figuring out ways to find money, one of which when I was 6, I grabbed a bunch of my parents' stuff that I decided they didn't need anymore, grabbed my buddy, and we went door to door with a pillowcase full of stuff from my parents and sold like golf balls and random light bulbs, random stuff around in the house. And I'm like, they have enough of these. And for like 5 cents, 10 cents,
Sure.
made a few bucks. But that was like I literally went door to door selling at 6 years old on my own.
You've learned a lot about business,
Mhm.
marketing, media. How did you know where you wanted to focus your talents and your mindset? Yeah.
After my sophomore year of college, I had heard enough business people tell me that like, just go learn to sell. And it's a talent you'll never regret, like learn to sell. And I took it really seriously. And I started applying to become a used car salesman for the summer. Turns out no car dealership wants to hire a 3-month-long employee. So no one was going to let me do it. And so I was getting turned down a lot. And Cutco, if you don't know, you sell knives door to door, basically. And
I remember Cutco. Yeah.
And they recruit through sending basically a bunch of college kids letters inviting them to come work for $16 an hour. There's a whole nother story around that, but it was literally like, come learn to sell knives. And it was like, yeah, perfect. Sounds difficult. I want to do it. And I was all about learning in college. Like during school, like thankfully my parents paid for school and I went to University of Arizona and I didn't work during the year, but summers I was like, I'm gonna get a job and learn a skill. And this summer was sales. And I went and did it, and I broke every one of their records that summer, became one of their top salespeople in the country in a couple of months. And just by following their program and, really sticking to it and working. And I ended up making an obscene amount of money for a summer. I mean, again, as a sophomore in college, working a summer job for 2 months, 2.5 months, I probably worked 5 to 10 hours a week, maybe a little more.
That's
and
right.
I made like $25,000-$30,000. And I was like, I have a knack for this. And my dad's business partner, I sold him knives. And he's like, Jesus, you could sell ice to Eskimos, which I had never heard the term, but I started realizing like, oh, I actually have a bit of a natural ability in sales, and not in the traditional sleazy car salesman way of sales, but more of like the like low pressure, like demonstrating value type of sales that I felt better about doing.
Yes.
And so from then I had that confidence in that, and that really opened up every door I had from then on.
So as you're learning, and what I'm hearing is you're learning something about life that is a skill that applies into business, learning it from someone, mentors, guides. Can you tell me about those roles and people in your life that have really helped you along the way?
Yeah, I've not had the same type of traditional mentorship. Like my dad, I would say, is a terrible teacher from a traditional sense. He is not good at explaining things. He has no patience at all.
Yeah.
But I learned from observation. So my dad's a successful guy. So I will never write off the fact that that's been a huge part in my success. I can call him and explain to him all my problems. Like way longer story, but I'll just say like one of the first early like panics I had in my business where I thought I was going to lose everything and it's all over. Like, what am I going to do? I called him and went into this 5-minute explanation of everything going on and this crazy story in my head. And his response was, yeah, that shit happens all the time, but I got to run. I'll talk to you later. Click. Like, wow. That kind of teaching has been a big part where it's like, he didn't mean to teach me anything there. He was just like, yeah, whatever, goodbye. But
perspective.
But yeah, that's probably the most valuable lesson I've learned as a business owner is like, that shit's going to happen all the time. Like, get ready you're just always going to be dealing with this kind of stuff. And then I always found people that I really admired in specific like verticals or categories, and always surrounded myself with those type of people. So not someone that's like my mentor, that I want to be everything they are, but that person that does such a great job with company culture, does such a great job in sales, or does such a great job with operationally, or is just so smart about something, or just seems to be a good person to bounce stuff off of. Those are the people I would consider my mentors. And a lot of times they're peers that are really good at things I'm not good at, or better at things that I may be good at, but not as good. But I really like to, and then I hopefully can reciprocate too.
So right now, Hawk Media, what led you into that space? What was the predecessor to that? Yeah.
So graduated college, went into real estate. My dad was a commercial real estate developer. I went on my own, but I liked the business. I had worked in his office for a year, and I worked for another real estate firm, and said, this seems really interesting. And I joined a commercial agency to be a real estate agent exactly a week before Lehman Brothers went bankrupt.
Wow.
And so that was, I thought, going to be my career was real estate. I thought I'd probably, work for 5 years, earn enough money to buy a couple buildings, and then maybe go to work with my dad or something, even though hindsight, thank God I did not love my dad, but that would have not been good. And so thankfully the whole market crashed, and it forced me, I made $350 that year. About 6 months in, I started scrambling to figure out what else I was going to do.
Sure.
And long story short, ended up partnering with a friend's dad to launch an online music company, going back to the music roots.
Yes.
And it was one-on-one business coaching for musicians. Built that for 2 years off basically hacking Craigslist, and ended up hiring a CEO to take it over because I realized it was never going to be a massive business that would set me up for retirement. It was just a fun business to run, but more of a passion project. And then built and sold 2 different e-commerce subscription fashion companies. And through that whole period, in college, I made fun of marketing majors. I never understood what marketing was, but once you start building online businesses and you realize that the entire lifeblood is marketing, there is no there's no foot traffic. You have to do good marketing. I got really focused on it because operationally, I never struggled. I when I had my the activewear brand or the t-shirt company, I was like, I'll figure out how to manufacture t-shirts. That wasn't that difficult. And logistics and all that, there's complications in it, but it's all logical outcomes and it's all reactive. Marketing and sales is all proactive. It's a constant moving target. You're trying to find the next thing to try to grow it, which makes it more fun and a lot more challenging. Yeah. And so I focused on that and, had a knack for it, especially because of the sales background. And so there's a lot in terms of nuance between sales and marketing in terms of the psychology of it. And so ended up focusing on it. And after selling my last e-commerce company, the music company, I hired a CEO that I built and sold to. And then I just started advising and consulting, and then realized how hard it was for people to get great marketing talent. It's just a really inaccessible world. Sure. And so built a little SWAT team, made everything super flexible and accessible, month to month, a la carte, et cetera. And yeah, it's been 7 years.
How did the business evolve to where you're focused today? And what is the focus? Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it was just other marketing channels became more prominent or became more opportunities. Yeah. And we watched what our clients needed and just continued to find experts and great people to build teams around. And it's always been pretty simple in the way we've built our business, which I think is part of the magic of it, is our model is the same as it was day one. Our prices are 30% higher than they were 7 years ago. So It's not really any big factor. And yeah, we were able to build a full infrastructure and everything off of an original business plan that wasn't really a business. I mean, when I say business plan, I mean, in my head, there was nothing written until a year into business when it was our first time getting offered to sell for a significant amount of money. And we're like, we should probably see where we're going with this and actually put a plan together. But it was a year in that we actually did that.
The thing that I've sort of realized as well is, your business is incredible. That's a great thing. But there's something else that is a component of this. It's you. You yourself are an influencer online in some respects of the way you have a great following. You have great dialogues with incredible people. And not every CEO or person who is a leader has those other qualities. Tell me the other interests that you have and then do those help your business? And is there a plan around that? And tell me the sort of strategy, because I want other people to learn this as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually the opposite of does it help my business? And it does, but back to actually the exact same timing, which is when we got offered to sell the company, we were a year in, my partner and I were young. I was 20, when was I? I just turned 28 and we got offered $14 million for the business. Wow. And it was like, wow, okay. Do we do this? It was that kind of a crazy thing. And we ended up turning it down because we thought we had a long way to go and we were enjoying it. And we basically had a meeting where it's like, how do we make this a marathon, not a sprint? Instead of being about this quick exit where we can flip it and take some money off the table, how do we make it that we could do this the next 30 years? Yeah. I'm not waiting for some deadline or exit or anything. I'm going to do everything I want to do along the way. Yeah. So then I never feel the pressure of anything to get out of it. We got offered a ton of money to sell the past couple months by several firms,
Wow.
and we turned it down because I love it. What else? What am I going to do? Like I already do everything I want to do. With that, again, with that mindset, you look at how can I do the things I want to do and make this sustainable. And with as a business owner, a lot of times it's surround yourself with great people. So I have a full executive team that can help me run it, and we're at the scale that we can afford to. And and then find ways to do both, and then keep to focus on the things you enjoy. Because then, like, I mean, I'm working 15 hours a day every day this week, and that's not unusual. But I'm not like, oh God. It's just like, yeah, cool. I have stuff to do. What else, what am I going to do instead? Watch Netflix? Like,
Yeah.
sounds great. And yeah, that's a big.
You're totally on the pulse of things that are going on. You're socially aware of what's going on, business aware as well. There's a future of learning that is happening right now. And when I say the future of learning, it's like everybody, because a lot of people couldn't go to actual physical schools this year, right? My kids actually had to take them up for 4 months. Homeschooling was a thing, but there's also like what I learned from one of my great friends and mentors, Frank Holmes, tacit learning, like traveling and learning.
Yeah.
What is your take on education and the future of education? Yeah.
Yeah. So the one thing that, how do I put this? I think it needs to change a lot. I think that our biggest failing point right now in the US, at least, is education. And most of my nonprofit focus is education. I don't understand why traditional schooling is the way it is, but I think the one thing you miss with like non-traditional homeschooling, things like that, is the social aspect, which I think is probably the most critical part of education. Sure. So that's what I'm curious to see is how can you solve the social part while also still educating on the basic, I shouldn't say basics, general education. Like I do believe having a solid foundation of knowledge and common knowledge with people around you helps you in everything in life. Because I watched it this weekend where I was with a group of people and one of them hasn't seen, like, we went through Braveheart, Jerry Maguire, Forrest Gump, like all these classics. And she's like, nope. And everyone's like, what? Like, it's almost like uncomfortable. Like, how do we not have this in common? Like, yeah. And I think it's the same thing with just like, imagine if you never learned about, the Revolutionary War in the US or, the things like that it's like, it'd be a little interesting. So like, I think kids still need to learn those things and those academics, but I think the way it's done makes no sense to me. Memorizing facts makes no sense to me. It's not reality. And I thankfully went to a very, very alternative school, first grade through high school, that was founded by an Indian philosopher named Jada Krishnamurti. And it's called Oak Grove. And my class sizes were anywhere between 7 and 16 people. My graduating class was 11.
Incredible.
Yeah. Amazing. And it felt like summer camp mixed with school. And I think that like the problem is it's in a small town that I don't know if I want to live in at this point in my life, but I would love to send my kids to something like that, where it's, not about standardized testing and getting through a curriculum, but it's about true learning and learning to be self-motivated too. That's the thing that I saw with that school that was better than anything was it taught kids just pursue happiness, which is in, our Declaration of Independence. And like the idea of pursuing happiness, it's lost on most people that it's like I truly believe that's what life's about. Whatever makes you happy. And that's what I see amongst my peers from that school is they're all different walks of life doing very different things. Some of like my closest friend growing up, or one of them, dropped out junior year and moved to Thailand and opened a bed and breakfast on the beach and still lives in Thailand with now 2 half-Thai kids and loves life. And then I have another friend, friends that work in corporate America, friends that have sold companies, and friends that still work at the kitchen at the school. The common denominator amongst all of them is they're happy. They're not stressed out trying to figure out like the same way I see other people. They're very content in what they're doing because they chose what they're doing. And I think there's something to be said about that with education and teaching people that you don't have to fit into a box, that it's like, just go do what you want to do. It's okay.